Hey everyone, and welcome to Big Red Homestead. I'm Josh, that's Caleb, and today we have a huge game to talk about. Friday night, Nebraska, Illinois. It's going to be a fun one. There's a lot to go through. Obviously, today we're talking about X Factors, predictions, and everything in between, a little bit of reaction from the Michigan game as well. So it's going to be a fun one. Caleb, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. This is a very exciting time for Husker football. Obviously, the Michigan game didn't go it didn't go the way we wanted, obviously. It was going to be a tough one coming in. They are a team on a mission, multiple guys coming back for trying to win that natty. And I really like Matt Rhule's philosophy on Sunday on the short week. Just, hey, I didn't like what I saw out there. We're going full pads and we're going to hit each other and we're going to get this out of our system because I was not pleased with this. You guys weren't attacking. There is no time to hang our heads and feel sorry for ourselves. And hey, you can't just lose 45-7 with your mom in the stands. Like, that's just not all right. I love that good quote. I love that quote from him. He was fired up, and he was just really fired up in the press conference on a lot of ways. And, talking about Bill Walsh's quote on championship mentalities and champions are champions before they're champions. So, I just loved a lot of stuff he had to say. So it got me fired up for this week. I'm really excited for Friday night. I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope, is this team comes out and actually shows what the team can do. Obviously, we'll weave some of the reaction. We weren't able to record a reaction video this week to the Michigan game because of scheduling. So we'll weave some of those reactions into this video. So let's just start talking about Illinois, though, and we'll start weaving those things in here as we talk about Nebraska. But Illinois is an interesting team. Right now, they're 2-3. A tough start to the season, but they had one of the toughest schedules in the country at the beginning of this year. Fourth hardest, according to PFF. Considering they played Kansas, Penn State, Purdue, wins versus Toledo and FAU, and losses to Kansas, Penn State, and Purdue. So it's been a tough go for them, obviously, but they have a lot of really talented pieces across the board on both sides of the ball. And when it comes to the game, I mean, right now, Illinois is actually favored, 3.5-point favorites right now, with a over/under with a points line of 43.5, and which is like an implied score of like 24-20 for Illinois. So it's going to be interesting. So on the offensive side of the ball for Illinois, what are your biggest thoughts for them? Like, where do you see their strengths, playmakers? Obviously, Isaiah Williams is always the guy that's first highlighted when you talk about Illinois.
He's obviously the playmaker for them. He has 446 yards receiving, got 30 catches and averaging about 15 yards a catch. He's definitely their most explosive weapon, 5-star athlete.
We know
QB.
his name.
Yes, we've seen him since freshman year and seen him continue to be a problem for Nebraska. And it will be the same story this year for sure. They do have a new quarterback at the helm, though, and that is Luca Altmaier, the transfer. And he actually has a lot of running ability as well. Right now, he's passed for over 1,000 yards, 1,076. He has a 65% completion percentage, but he has 5 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. And which is surprising for Illinois is, again, when they've had a good offensive line last year, is they've allowed 18 sacks this year for him. And he's had to run around a lot. Again, he's had the most carries on the team. And that is definitely not by design. I think they'd want Reggie Love to have the ball more. Yeah. So he has 47 carries for a 3.7 average. But he does have a 72-yard touchdown and 3 rushing touchdowns. So he is definitely a dual threat. Definitely it reminds me a lot of the J.J. McCarthy. You can kind of lose him in man. He'll just scramble and get a bunch of yards, kind of like J.J. McCarthy's 1 touchdown list last week against us.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. In the game against Kansas, I mean, Altmaier had a 72-yard rushing touchdown on a 3rd and 18 scramble. So, there is dangers there when it comes to watching for his legs and trying to defend for that. So that's going to be something that we're going to talk about a lot for sure. So, obviously, like heading into this year, the big narrative for Illinois was, can they find a new identity after replacing Chase Brown, the guy who's literally been their offense for the past, 23 decades, seemingly.
Yes.
But right now, they've been struggling, I think, to really dial in that identity, right? It just seems like they're trying to get the ball in their playmakers' hands, but the offensive line's really holding them back. At this point, the O-line is really the only glaring issue for this team. The defense is overall okay. Altmaier's fine. They have playmakers. They have Reggie Love. They have Isaiah Williams. But the O-line has been the problem for this team over and over and over again, like you mentioned. Right now, they're the 125th graded O-line in the country on PFF, which is worse than us. We're in pass blocking. We're 101st. They're 122nd in QB sack percentage. We're 119th. So they are worse than us right now. So you love to see that.
Let's go.
And like you said, Altmaier runs for his life. So when he's kept clean, he's pretty efficient and effective, and he can zip the ball around the field. We've seen Isaiah Williams go up and make some insane plays in a handful of these games. That's where their offense is most dangerous, but they've really struggled to be consistent.
Yeah, again, and as we've definitely understand with a questionable O-line, that's just the way it is. When Altmaier does have time, he does look pretty nice in the pocket. But also we've seen some bad decisions from him, even on rollouts or other decisions. We saw some, again, even the Penn State game, just some exciting opportunities. Yeah, he had 4 picks, and a couple of them just absolutely lost the guy, or underthrew a person as well, in tight coverage. And so just exciting things where hopefully some of our cornerbacks will be able to break the game, like Matt Rhule said, and kind of make some of those big plays. And I think Altmaier will probably give us a couple turnover-worthy play opportunities. It'll be on our defense and on our secondary to take hold of those. With their offensive line, it presents a lot of opportunities for sacks. They have a bad left tackle too, which is just kind of nice to see on film. Like I can now, I can see a team that can empathize with a bad left tackle. We're not the only ones in the Big Ten, which is kind of nice.
No. I mean, basically, when you look at PFF, all of their lowest graded players are their linemen, especially when it comes to pass grades.
Couldn't be us.
Yeah, I know. You love seeing that. They love trying to get those tunnel screens to Isaiah Williams, and that's where they had their most success, especially against in the Kansas game, for example. Their best drive, where they just looked great, involved like Isaiah Williams tunnel screen, a designed QB draw from Altmaier, and Altmaier knocked it in on a scramble at the goal line. So those are kind of how they've moved the ball most efficiently. But then, like you said, they'll take shots downfield, and they have receivers who can go up and get it. I mean, there was a handful of Randy Moss moments from Isaiah Williams and from some of the other playmakers on their team. So, I mean, they have no problem taking shots downfield. So they're a pretty fun offense to watch in that regard, and they have the playmakers to make it happen. And Reggie Love's a really aggressive runner, so they have a nice offense.
Yeah, he averages 5.6 yards a carry. He only has 1 touchdown, but his 1 touchdown was very noteworthy against Penn State. It was an awesome run where he just runs over a linebacker. Yeah, so he will be a problem. And again, a great challenge for our defensive line and just for our front seven. Hopefully he doesn't get to the secondary too often. And we'll have another opportunity to kind of right those wrongs of some of those QB runs and being able to stop that run.
Yeah, so I mean, on the defensive side for Illinois, they're highlighted by Jerzon Newton. I mean, who's going to be a first-round pick this year. He stayed to try to become a top 5 pick. He wants to be one of the best in the country. Although so far this season, it hasn't been nearly as dominant as last year. Obviously, last year, Illinois' defense was stacked all over the board. It wasn't as easy to focus on Newton. This year, teams seem to be doing that, but he's still extremely disruptive. 15 QB hurries this year, and he's been going at it. What are your thoughts on this Illinois defense?
Yeah, obviously they've lost some guys, speaking of which, Witherspoon had a 97-yard pick 6 last night in the NFL in the Sunday League. Yeah. So that's pretty wild. Again, they lost a lot, especially on that secondary. Jerzon Newton, definitely still is one of those guys. He has 15 QB hurries on the season, but only 2 sacks. And only 20 tackles, 12 of them solo. But yeah, those hurries, again, he does get to the backfield, and it will be a problem for our interior linemen. I'll be really interested to see just how Ben Scott and Piper and all those guys handle, again, a premier defensive tackle, a defensive lineman. So he's going to be a lot on the inside for those guys. Thank goodness that he's not a D end who is just going to be obliterating Turner or this whole game.
That's the thing. Illinois is a bear defense, which means they run 3 interior linemen essentially on inside leverage, and then they have 2 linebackers on the outside. So usually they give you a 5-person front oftentimes, and which this defense it's most effective to attack the exterior, attack the edges, and they've had a lot of problems this year. I mean, right now the defense isn't that good of a defense. I mean, they're 94th in opponents' yards per rush at 4.6.
Only 7 sacks.
And 41st in opponents' yards per pass. So they're pretty average there. Yeah, and 113th in sack percentage right now. And 97th in opponents' turnover percentage, where last year they were one of the best in the country in forcing turnovers.
So good.
And they were unreal because the secondary was just that good with Sidney Brown and Witherspoon and all those guys. So that's probably the biggest difference this year. Teams have had a lot of success. I mean, we even saw like teams like FAU finding space.
Their O-line looked good. FAU's O-line looked good.
Yeah, I mean, Toledo put up 28 on them. And so it's like there's been opportunities there for teams. And I think there's going to be opportunities for Nebraska in this game. I mean, they've really had times where they struggled. I mean, in the FAU game, struggled to contain the edges. And that's where the defense, when you're running a 3-3, when you're running a 3-4 bear like this, you have to contain the edges to have success because the D linemen aren't going to be able to do that. I'm interested to see exactly how that ends up playing out. I mean, they were down. They gave up 28 points to Kansas in the first half. Of course, Kansas's offense is actually good with Jalen Daniels, but there's a lot there where I think they're going to have opportunities and it's going to be fun. So with that said, I think we can kind of talk about X factors here. And this is where we can kind of weave in some of the takeaways from the Nebraska-Michigan game and talk about how we can attack this Illinois team. So what are your first thoughts when it comes to X factors for this game, and where are you at with Nebraska, Illinois?
I think one of the X factors for me just on the season right now is Deshaun Singleton being out, and then just kind of what and that Reimer, does to and Reimer as well. What this does to our team. I mean, Deshaun Singleton goes out the first drive for Nebraska. Yeah, first play. So that's just huge.
Dude, killer.
Yeah, I mean, he's been one of our favorite players just to watch this season. He is. He absolutely is a tone setter on defense. He flies around. He's what Matt Rhule wants to see of, again, he makes plays, he reads and reacts. There is no hesitation, and that's exactly what you need on defense.
I genuinely think that when he got hurt, it deflated the defense a little bit, like more than it would have been otherwise.
Even Reimer, Reimer's definitely been better this season and been really good, and he was definitely missed as well. Singleton, it just stinks when he just had so much upside and was continuing to progress as the season went on, and he was just our surest tackler as well on the team. It felt like he just had such a high tackle percentage. Quentin Newsome then moved to safety for this last game, so I don't know what that means. Because again, Isaiah Williams is their biggest weapon. Does that mean that Newsome is going to play safety, or is he going to go back to corner? Then are you in Hardzog
playing man on Isaiah Williams, or Tommy Hill? Like you want Q playing on Isaiah Williams, right? So that's going to be interesting.
The secondary is going to have a big challenge for them, and again, Reimer, who's having it's not injury related. It's still the health stuff. If he was really sick or had an infection or whatnot. Whatever's going on, hope he's all right and continues to feel better. Yeah, it didn't sound good though.
It sounded like it may have been a reaction to the knee injury or something along those lines. But yeah, so he's not going to be here for a while. Rhule did mention Phelan Sanford and Kobe Brett's coming in, and so they're both secondary guys, safety guys. So it's like, maybe Q will end up playing corner then, and they just brought him back during this game because of the injury in the first quarter. So I don't know, it's hard to say. But like you said, I mean, obviously finding ways to keep Isaiah Williams in check is going to be huge. And
yes.
That comes from discipline from the linebackers and ensuring that you're playing your role here, because I mean they're gonna run these tunnel screens, they're gonna run quick slants, they're gonna run quick out routes to Williams. Basically, any way to get him the ball towards the edges is what you're gonna try to see, and that's very similar to what La Tech did with Smoke Harris, was just trying to give him the ball in a variety of ways around the field. So we've kind of already seen an offense that does that, which is I think gonna play to our advantage. But it's going to be a lot of ways in how we try to defend Smoke Harris.
That's a great example. And while Smoke Harris was tougher to tackle, I think Isaiah Williams is faster. So they each present their own problems for sure. It's going to be a really tough challenge. The lucky news for us on defense is at least we're hopefully adding someone back. Matt Rhule said that Cam Lenhart is likely going to be back this week, which is great because, again, that added pass rush for us is going to be huge. And he also kind of expressed his frustration of, we can't just send 6 guys all the time. We have to be able to create pressure with 4 dudes, whether it's a double team or what have you. Like, you have to be able to accept that challenge and be able to meet that and attack. And, I think that was interesting of him too, of like, you can't just quit on a play because, oh man, we're not sending 5, we're not sending 6. Like, he's like, we need to get pressure with 4 dudes. And so I think Cam Lenhart really helps.
I mean, I'm not convinced I don't know if we have the talent and how this defense is built. I mean, obviously with the 3-3-5, you don't want to rely on Nash Hutmacher trying to get pressure every single time or something like that. So like inevitably, I'm a little bit worried along those lines. I mean, again, good news for us is that Illinois, this is the next X factor, of course, is finding pressure on Luke Altmaier, because right now he's the 118th. He has the 100, one of the worst in the country when under pressure. 107th graded when under pressure, 31st graded when kept clean, and he has the 118th adjusted completion percentage ranked when under pressure.
That's a lot like the La Tech QB stats.
Yeah,
as well,
exactly.
which is real. It's like very close.
You know, it is. And he was pressured on 13th most often on dropbacks in the country. 41.5% of his dropbacks are pressured. And so that's what you hope to see, obviously. And his performances inevitably relied on pressure. And we saw that in the Penn State game, where with his picks coming on horrible throws. I'm not 100% convinced we're going to be able to get there without sending pressure. So then you're going to rely on performances on the outside from our secondary, which, we've been decent, but losing Singleton and not having Reimer is worrying. And I'm not 100% convinced his defense is going to be as elite with those two guys who are kind of two of the 3 or 4 leaders on this defense. So it's not ideal to say the least.
Yeah, I agree. I think we do have to send, I'm not sure if we can get there with 4 often. I mean, again, I'd rather we be sending a lot more guys than mucking it up than just dropping back into coverage. I know that Matt Rhule, as a coach, you need to stay honest, because, you can't just have them just easily prepare for man all the time. And I understand that from his perspective of you have to switch it up. But yeah, I think on a lot of situations, more than not, we need to be sending 5 or 6. There was a really nice Wolf blitz where, they blitzed the weak side and they sent a corner blitz. I can't remember which team did it. And Luke Altmaier absolutely got just destroyed and didn't see it coming. Yeah. So I'm down to try different stuff like that we really haven't seen in different ways to get pressure. To win this game, I think we got to send it more often than not.
I agree. On offensive side, to attack this team, inevitably, again, like we said, they're a bear defense. You have to get to the edges. And we saw Kansas do this extremely effectively. They had really good success early with swing passes, sending a guy in motion, hitting him for a screen. They ran this speed option, ripped off a 20 or 30 yard run on a speed option.
I know a guy who's good at the speed option.
Yeah. We have, and good news, guys. I mean, if there's one thing we know how to do, it's running a speed option.
So at least QB keep on the speed option.
We saw teams, FAU and a few other teams, really move the pocket and get their quarterback out rolling. And again, that gets you away from the interior pass rush of Illinois and forces them to contain, which they have not been good at doing. So that's good news for us. Again, is that's where we've seen Heinrich Haarberg have the most success, is just moving the ball with his feet, getting him outside, giving him opportunity to run if he can. So overall, I think we match up pretty well with the strengths and weaknesses of this Illinois defense. It just comes down to whether or not we're going to be able to run the ball to the edges and get that leverage, because we did not do it against Michigan.
I think that means Joshua Fleeks is going to get some more chances at running back.
It sounded like it
this week. Again, because it makes sense. You want that speed getting to the outside, and we saw the speed obviously on that 70-yard touchdown.
Rhule mentioned it in the post in the presser on Monday.
Yeah, getting Billy Kemp the ball fast off this. Having Fedoni pulling him, sending him in motion. To crack block along those edges, just as. As
Purdue had success against them running some beautiful end arounds, and that got them in the end zone as well at the goal line. So again, this has been how you attack Illinois, on the edges, fast. So I really hope that's what we see. I don't want to see us just pounding QB draws up the middle every time, especially on 4th down from the shotgun. Or just classic I formation in between the tackles. That's the only strength the Illinois defense has. So
their interior linemen, exactly.
I really hope we see Satterfield drop a pretty creative game and start to trust Haarberg a little bit. I mean, that was one of the big takeaways from the Michigan game. People were so gloomy and down after the Michigan game, but for me, the Haarberg takeaways were really exciting. I mean, he has zero turnover worthy plays currently when under pressure, which is as good as you can get.
Run under the pressure all the time.
Right. Currently, he's pressured very often. Right now, 21st most often. 34 out of 86 dropbacks, and 51st in adjusted completion percentage when under pressure. So that removes throwaways and drop passes. So we've seen some good things from Haarberg, and you saw in the game some of those quick deliveries to Marcus Washington, some really good things there. So overall, there's a lot of positive takeaways for the offense, and it just comes down to whether or not we're going to execute these blocks. And again, a pretty similar narrative for both sides here. Our offensive line is the turnkey for the offense. If we can protect Haarberg and get some blocks, we're going to see
which offensive line will suck the least.
Right. And whether or not our running backs can hold on to the ball. Because good Lord. I mean, we've recovered 2 fumbles, which we never do in the last 2 games.
Anthony Grant played a terrible game. I'm looking elsewhere at this point for running back. He played a rough one, but I want to see Emmett Johnson and Fleeks get the ball more, because I mean, I think if anything on the offense, it wasn't Harburg that was the problem by any means. It was Anthony Grant not being able to get anything going on the rushing game.
And the drop passes.
Yeah, the drop passes as well.
No, yeah, Harburg deserves to start. I'm sure he will in this game. And so that's going to be interesting to see. So with that said, let's head into the predictions here. What are your thoughts? Illinois, Nebraska.
Again, I think that our offense will be able to move the ball a little bit more. Again, I think that Harburg is progressing in the right way. I've seen the coaches earn more trust in him. Again, we saw him against as tough of a defense as it can get, be able to hold on to the ball and at least give our playmakers opportunities. I know that, again, our rush game was not good whatsoever, but Michigan, it was a point that they made to try and stop it. I think that we're going to be able to move the ball. And I think our defense, again, while Reimer's out and Singleton out, that definitely hurts our defense. I think other guys will be able to step up. And I think we'll be able to win this game. I'm going Nebraska 27-20. Go Big Red, baby. It's
on
that
the
time.
Road, 3-point favorites.
This is, again, Matt Rhule is making a statement. This is a tough win, and we need this win if we want to be bowl eligible, if we want to stay in contention in the West, if we want everything that we want ahead of us. But I think that we have the ability to do it. And I loved how mad Matt Rhule was, how upset he was at them not being able to fly around. Like, I got them ready, in game 1 and half of game 2, and he's like, where did this go? So I'm excited first just to get back to play football and fly around the field.
As much as I loved the press conference, I wish press conferences won games because that'd be great, but they don't. And we're on the road. And
coaches do, though.
And history says Nebraska on the road in the Big Ten, when we're not favored, does not go well. Obviously, I don't pick about history. I pick about, what the evidence shows this season. And for me, the evidence shows that we're due a few turnovers. I mean, inevitably, we're not going to recover all these fumbles. I mean, Harburg's been strip sacked in both games. Like, he got strip sacked 2 games ago. We got strip sacked against Michigan, but we recovered the strip sack this time against Michigan. Logically, I think there's going to be some turnovers that go against us in this game, and that's what I'm really worried about. And then the other big worry here is I don't know if we can replace the production from Reimer and Singleton right off the rip here. I'm worried that the defense that we saw in week 1 and week 2 early might not be the defense we're going to see, at least in the short term here. And Illinois got the playmakers to make us pay if we don't execute well and if we don't get to the quarterback. And so Singleton was such a turnkey for this defense, and Reimer was so good in zone coverage across the middle. I'm worried we're going to get attacked often and give up some big time plays that we didn't give up against Louisiana Tech. Obviously, Michigan, they only had their max play was under 30 yards. We didn't give up any big time plays against Michigan, but that's not Michigan's style. That is Illinois' style. So that's what I'm worried about. And I think this defense is going to be a little bit more vulnerable. So the offense might put up points, but I think the defense is also going to be gashed a few times on some breakdowns that we did not see earlier this year because of replacing Singleton and Reimer. So basically a prove it to me type of situation for Nebraska right now on the road. We've never seen them convert on the road in the Big Ten when we're not favored. So I'm going to pick Nebraska to lose 27-24 in a heartbreaker. I hate it, but dude, at this point, with so many question marks still, and we haven't seen it yet from us, I can't be picking us until we see it.
Do you think this is the worst team is Northwestern worse or is Illinois
Northwestern's worse? Northwestern's worse.
All right. So is this the second easiest game left on the schedule?
It's the second easiest game left on the schedule. I mean, again, there's a lot of ways we can win this. I'm just not convinced yet.
I think our defense is going to make some plays. I also think we're due turnovers, but I think it's the other way around. I think that our defense is owed some turnovers. And also, law of averages historically, if you've looked at Nebraska again over the last, decade or even 20 years, we're actually due to get all of the turnovers back because we're so
over
below the law of averages.
Frame.
So honestly, we should just keep recovering all the fumbles and stuff. I think we're owed a lot.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
so
I mean, honestly, Harburg is the key here. If he plays a clean game and he can throw the ball decently, I mean, suddenly this offense could put up points and it may not matter. Maybe we win the game 30-27 or something like that, and that's possible.
I honestly see us blowing them out more than I see a narrative for them blowing us out.
That's fair. I agree
in a lot of ways, but I do understand your worry because I think Isaiah Williams is the most explosive player on the field.
They have multiple NFL players. We don't. Yes. And this is the prove it game. If Nebraska does it, I'm going to be hyped. And this is where the season begins.
Yeah.
If you win this game, suddenly bowl games in on the board. And I mean, the Big Ten West is still on the board,
That's what's crazy.
I mean,
the Big Ten West is very much on the board. I mean, Iowa, Cade McNamara's out for the rest of the season.
Right.
So they got Deacon at quarterback. Like there's
obviously Wisconsin's the guy is the team to beat, but you never know at the end of the day. So with that said, drop your comments down below, your predictions down below, and your thoughts on this game coming up on Friday. It's gonna be a fun one, and hopefully you guys are as hyped for it as we are, because we are pumped. And be on the lookout for our clothing brand coming out, Homestead. We're pumped for it and really excited. And join us on Patreon and in the Discord down below. Patreon content's been fire lately. You saw us get all of the tea and the alpha on some of these teams before we even talk about it. It's a fun time. So check it out in the description down below. But as always, guys, I'm Josh. That's Caleb. This has been Big Red Homestead. And guys, we'll see you next time. Go Big Red, baby.